Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. And we have a 1947 D-18 Martin in really good shape that's going to be for sale. I'm going to tell you all about that in just a minute. But first, I figure why not try to do a song that I've never done before, and why not just do it live? The cattle are prowling, the coyotes howling, way out where the doggies roam. Where spurs are a-jingling, the cowboy is singing his lonesome cattle call. Ooh, 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 ooh. And he rides in the sun till his day's work is done, and he rounds up the cattle each fold. Singing his cattle call. Well, there's got to be a first time for everything, and that was it. And my computer's all messed up here, so bear with me while I get my outline back up here where I can tell what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. Well, hope everybody's doing good. It's a chilly morning here, and that is for sure. It is cold. It's a -2 Fahrenheit, which I didn't look that up in Celsius, but it's cold. I can tell you that. The C stands for cold. In fact, here's a look out the door. Welcome to the frozen wasteland. It's crazy cold out here, -2 degrees Fahrenheit. And so far we're doing okay. Things are covered in snow, and I'm burning so much firewood, it's unbelievable. You can see the smoke rising there. Every 5-6 hours, I'm going out and putting about a wheelbarrow up to 2 wheelbarrows full of wood in the stove. It don't take long to burn a cord that way. But it is what it is. I'm hoping that it'll settle down in the next few days, because we need it badly. Yep, it's just the name of the tune right now. I didn't go check the pond this morning, but I have a feeling we could probably skate on the pond today. I mean, and that's pretty rare around here. You don't get to skate on our pond very often because of that, the spring keeps the water a lot warmer. Plus, it's a deep pond on top of that, so the water stays a little warmer because of that. But I have a feeling you could skate on it today. I don't think it'd be much of a problem. But I'd have to check it to be sure. And fortunately, we don't have any small kids out here that are going to want to be tempted to do that, so that's a good thing too. That's always the scary thing, is if somebody hasn't checked the ice to be sure it's safe, kids get out on it and it can lead to catastrophe very quickly. Well, I told you I've been working on the grapple bucket, and I believe I have it finished. So here's just a quick little video this morning of that. Well, the furnace is running in here to keep things from freezing up. But you can see I've got the new grapple bucket up in good shape. I re-welded this area. I re-welded this area and straightened out some pretty big dents. This was dented in pretty badly through here, and it's fairly straight now. I've welded on the attachment for the grapple bucket, so all I got to do is put the pins in it, and it's ready to go as far as I can tell. Yeah, and putting the pins in it is a, should I even say this? It's less than 5 minutes. You should never say stuff like that. I really You'd think I'd know better. But normally it's a 5-minute job or less to put the pins in. Probably 2 minutes, really. Let's see, what else have I got for you here? Well, before we get to the main attraction, Bill Pilliard owns this guitar. Bill Pilliard, you know, you see him on our videos quite often, on our live shows. Bill's not an official member of the band, but yet he sits in quite often and can fill in and do very well. In fact, he can pretty much outdo me on any day of the week. But anyway, you know, he also built his guitar in the shop here. His BP guitar is what we call it, because he put his initials in the peg head, BP, Bill Pilliard. Or British Petroleum, if you prefer. Well, he had an unfortunate incident with that guitar. A very unfortunate incident. He walked down the stairs down in the basement, and shortly after, the guitar come walking down the stairs on its own, by itself. Apparently, he had the guitar hanging up in its soft case on the side wall of the basement, you know, coming down into the basement. And apparently, it wasn't hung very well, and he might have, you know, jarred it a little bit as he went down the stairs. And anyway, it come tumbling down the stairs. It didn't, you know, it ain't completely broke, but part of the binding popped off of it and cracked and broke. It cracked the back a little bit in one little place, not too badly actually, and it cracked a little bit of the peg head. As far as I can tell, that's the only damage, but that guitar is over here waiting for me to work on, and so you'll be getting some more repair videos. If my friends alone might keep you guys supplied in repair videos as we get into this, because I've got, like, I think 2 fiddles now and 1 guitar for sure, and who knows what else. And I got to get on that. In fact, I'm going to get on that today, because I've got to start getting on those instruments, and that's why I'm down here in the shop, is because I've made up my mind that today is an instrument day. I got to get started working on instruments. Just for friends. As you know, I'm not doing it as a business anymore. I've always said I will continue to do it for friends and family, but other than that, I'm not doing it. Well, this guitar was one of the first guitars Bill owned. Well, I shouldn't say it that way, because I don't know that. He bought it in the 90s, I should say. Maybe I should say it's one of the best. It was probably his first good guitar that he owned, you know, name brand and all that. He bought this from Frank Ray, who incidentally was the first owner of my Uncle Don's mandolin after my Uncle Don passed away. So Frank Ray had a music store in Hillsboro, Missouri. Frank Ray is also the leader of the band Cedar Hill, bluegrass band that has had charted numbers and has toured Europe and things. So they're a really good group. And anyway, make a long story short, Bill bought this from Frank Ray back in the 90s. And it's a really fine guitar. Yeah, it's got lots of little tiny surface scratches and little tiny nicks and little things that you can see. It's a 1947, but for a 1947, it's about as good as it's going to get. And I think he said the bridge has been replaced on this, and the frets need a little bit of work. They're not terrible. They're perfectly playable, in fact, but they could use some work. Got a really good sound. The reason Bill wants to sell it is that it's just sitting in a case and it's not being played, because he's got his own guitar that he built, which I've got to repair. And he also has a Gallagher guitar, and he has yet another guitar that he just pulls around to jam sessions and things also, just one that he beats around on. But anyway, this one here is too good of a guitar to just sit in a case and not be played. We will be putting it up for auction. You should know that these are high dollar guitars. This is not going to be a $500 guitar, so don't even start to think like that. I think we're going to have a starting price of over $6,000, so it's not going to be cheap. and I think we'll have a buy it now price of, you know, up there. I don't know, maybe double that, around 12,000, something like that. So it's not going to go cheap, and but you don't find a 1947 D-18 Martin in this good a shape every day. You just don't find them. They're out there, but you just don't, you know, people aren't turning them loose, for one thing. Anyway, we did film a little bit of Bill playing it yesterday, and so you'll see all that whenever I put out the video, because I will have to produce a little pre-auction video on it. And then I've got to check out my new auction software, because I don't even know, because the last auction I put out, the software just gave me trouble like crazy. So I got new auction software. Now, whether or not I can even make that work or not, I don't know, because I haven't tried it yet. So bear with me on this. It's going to be a little while before it gets up and going. And of course, you'll follow my daily vlogs, and you'll hear all about it, of course, in the daily vlogs. I guess that's it for now. So let's well, there's one other thing I was going to tell you about. You know, this book that I've been thumbing through it a little bit here and there, and reading a few things. I found the story on, I told you about the footprints in the snow, and of course they call it foot marks in the snow, and they said it was written by a different guy, and the guy's name was Harry Wright. Well, I should have looked this up. I mean, I should have marked it here, because I don't see it right now. But I started looking, you know, I saw the song in here, Life's Railway to Heaven. Now, I have always heard and always told the story that was written by Eliza Snow. And if you go out on the internet and you look up Life's Railway to Heaven, you'll see out on the internet that Eliza Snow is given credit for writing that song. Now, how do I remember her name when I can't remember anybody else's name? Well, I don't really know that, but she was married to Brigham Young and I think John Smith. I think the two leaders of the Mormon church, you know, at different times. One of them died, and then she married the other one. And, you know, so I always joke around when I tell a story about that song about Life's Railway to Heaven, that it was written by a bigamist. And not trying to be judgmental. In fact, here it is. I just found it. Not trying to be judgmental. I'm just stating it as a fact, and kind of a funny fact, you know. And anyway, they're saying here that this song was written by William S. Hayes, Life's Railway to Heaven. Now, I don't know where they got their information, and I don't know that Eliza Snow's information is correct either, but yeah, so I don't know what to believe now. You know, this is starting to give me some conflicting information, but I don't know. I'm going to have to do some more research, and if I do more research and find out anything for sure, I'll let you know, but that's making me scratch my head now, because I've always heard that it was Eliza Snow that wrote the song, and that she died before she ever knew the song became popular, that she wrote it as a poem, and that's what it says there, that he wrote it as a poem also. So it's just got my head scratching there. Well, let's get into the comments here and see what we've got. If you would please try to remember to put the question marks in front of your comment. That way I know that you're wanting me to cover it and discuss it. I hung up the picture temporarily right there, and just to get it off the desk, because I got to work on the desk. Rod Wentler again was number one. Before we went live, there's Thomas Armstrong, and he's got some question marks. It says, "Morning, Jerry. Rode a sickle mower when I was young behind my dad's tractor. The mower was old with bar left front of metal wheel. Did they standardize them to right side at some point?" Well, I don't know much about the horse-drawn ones, which is basically what you're talking about there, except it was being pulled by a tractor. The original ones were wheel-powered, mechanical gears. They were drawn by horses. I know that, but I don't know much about the transitions on all that stuff. The other bit of trivia that I do know about those horse-drawn sickle mowers, and it's really sad, but it happened, and that is that my great-grandfather, his name was Ford Duncan, he cut his own grandson's leg off with one of those. Oh, can you imagine the pain that you'd have as a grandfather knowing that happened? His grandson ran up behind him. He was just a little boy at the time. His name was Leo, and Leo Duncan, Ford Duncan's grandson. And anyway, Leo ran up behind the team of horses and apparently spooked the horses at the same time, and then they lunged forward and the sickle bar cut his leg off. Oh, I just can't imagine just how terrible that would be. And I got to know Leo pretty good. I was just a kid. He was quite a bit older than me. But we went deer hunting a lot, and the thing to Leo's credit was that he could, we're talking these Ozark mountain hills that make my hills, which are pretty darn big. My hills are big here on the farm, but where we hunted down in Ellington, Missouri, these hills are tiny compared to that. And Leo could walk up those hills like nobody's business. You know, he had a wooden leg, and he could do that. But anyway, Thomas, you got me off on a tangent there. Just start off with, I do know a little bit about those sickle bars, but only a little bit. Dottie Hildebrand is next there, and good morning. She says, chilly in South Carolina and raining. Hope you all have a good day. Boy, I hope we don't try to get any rain here on top of all this mess, as cold as it is. Moving on down, John Hanna's Musical Adventures, he says, from Killeen, Texas. Brian Byler from Northeast Ohio. Bill Mumbo says it's -4. In the words of Johnny Nash, it's been bright, bright sun. Shining day so far. I wish we'd get the sun out here. Speaking of that, that reminds me that, just giving you a follow-up, I put the solar battery charger on my Ranger. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't been keeping up. And really, even before it got really, really cold, it wasn't keeping up all the time. Mostly because it's been overcast and not shiny enough to keep the battery charged up. So it's frustrating. I don't know what I'm going to do about that whole situation, because I keep buying those darn rectifier chargers, whatever you call them things. I forget now what it's called. I can't think of it. The stator charger that goes around around the flywheel type deal. But anyway, they're junk. Why couldn't they just put a regular old everyday alternator on those things? And man, if I can figure out a way to do it, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to convert that thing over to just a plain old regular alternator. I mean, why do we need to reinvent the wheel all the time and go to something that's just completely stupid? There you go. There's my rant for right now. No, I'm not guaranteeing I won't have another one before we're done. The spoken song, so cold here in Northeast Ohio, I had to chop a dog off a fire hydrant. Yeah, I can picture that. Wavy gravy, Jerry, it's so cold out I saw a local politician with his hands in his own pockets. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Yep, yeah. That's pretty rare when you see them with their hands in their own pockets. Bill Webb, good morning, Jerry. It's chilly 10 here with a wind chill of 6 degrees. Wow. Well, that's getting kind of cold down there in Texas. And he says he's in Commerce, Texas. Bronson Taylor, good morning. Hope you're staying warm. Yeah, well, we're staying warm because we're staying warm. We have to work at it. But we're staying warm. I'm going to have to go down and haul up some more firewood now. I thought I was going to have enough to get through this cold snap, but this is a real cold snap. This isn't your average cold snap. I mean, this is bad news. And I'm really worried that the ground's going to freeze deep enough to freeze up our water lines and things. And gosh, I don't want that to happen at all. All right, Kathy Voles was the first one after we went live. West Palm Beach, Florida, Christia Thomason, North Carolina, Richard Cooksey from way too cold Texas. Yeah, well, I feel your pain there. Carolyn Fike and Luke If. Yeah, he says he can hear something in the sound of the furnace. Yeah, the furnace is over there, and I feel like I have to keep it running this morning. If it's real annoying, let me know. I've got a little side heater down here below me that's helping, but it's pretty chilly in here today. I mean, it's in the 50s, but with it being so cold outside, 50s seems warm when you first walk in, but after you're in here a while, it doesn't seem all that warm. Carolyn Fike says, did you walk to work this morning? No, I brought my lunch. That's just a stupid thing I used to say to people all the time. I just to draw a weird look on their face, I'd say, did you walk to work today or did you bring your lunch? So, yes, I did walk to work, Carolyn. Yeah, I can't help it. I'm just crazy. Let's see. Randy Winters from Northeast Pennsylvania. I bet it is chilly there, too. Patrick Bjorn says 7 below at Hastings, Minnesota with 35 below wind chill. Yeah, I don't know what the wind chill is here, but the other day it was really cold. It was blowing, I'm talking, not tornado winds, but man, it was blowing really, really, really hard. I mean, really hard. I bet they were 30, 40 mile an hour winds, and I'm not kidding. And it was really cold. It was like down to 0 when it was doing that. So I can't tell you what the wind chill would be on that, but it was cold. Bill Mumbo, I'm looking for question marks. Grapple bucket, well done, well done. You're a yodeling fool. Well, I'm just a fool. Jason Smith, $15,000. Buy it now, Jerry. Okay, well, we might do that. I noticed that, I don't know that this one's better than the other ones, but I've been looking online, and most of the other ones that I've seen have more scratches than this one. This one's got plenty of scratches. I ain't trying to, I don't want to sugarcoat nothing. I want you to know what you're buying. And it's got plenty of scratches, but they're light scratches. They're little chips and little nicks and little light surface scratches. There's no deep gouges or nothing like that. The ones that I've been seeing online, they have huge belt buckle rashes in the back, and just really they're still in pretty good shape for 1947, but this one's one of the best ones I've seen, honestly. It's pretty darn good. Moving on. Yeah, we might do a 15,000. I even talked to him about that, but I'm not sure where we're going with that yet. So you'll see it when we do it live, but and we'll tell you more about it as we get into it a little bit more. Bill Dedrick, Jerry, great 47 D-18. Are you going to do any setup work such as a fret, leveling, or crown? No, it's going to be sold as is, and it's in really good shape. Yeah, it could use a fret job. You could do a fret job on it, but it doesn't really, what I call, need it right now. It's not to that point where you have to do a fret job. It wouldn't hurt it if it had one, but no, I'm not going to do anything to it. It's going to be sold as is. Papa Tom, should the strings on a guitar be loosened if it's not being played for a couple of months? It's not a bad practice to loosen them. It's not a bad practice. If you've got light strings on it, it's probably not as important as if you have mediums or heavy, especially if you have heavy strings. You definitely want to loosen it. But I wouldn't recommend heavy strings on any acoustic guitar. I really don't. And if anybody's playing heavy strings, I would really consider going to mediums at the heaviest, and lights are not a bad choice. A lot of people, back years ago, lights were wimpy strings. They really were, and they didn't have the same kind of sound. Nowadays, with the new technology, the phosphor bronze, light strings sound really good. And you need to revisit them if you haven't visited those in a while. They sound really good. So, and they're way better for your instrument. So think about it at least. Lots of people say on a Martin you can't put lights on it. They just eat you alive when you say you're going to put lights on a Martin. I'm telling you, it works. Works just fine now. Didn't used to. I mean, like back when lights were, black diamond strings or something like that, or just standard bronze strings. No, they weren't any good. But now they are. So, technology's changed and it keeps changing, and you ought to at least reconsider it. It'll be good for your instrument if you do. Salamander from Winnipeg, Canada. It's only cold outside. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's actually a little bit cool in here, though. It's not cold. I'm not cold or anything, but it's on the cool edge. Thomas Armstrong again. Terrible accident. I was always scared of that mower also. Was very difficult to raise that mower bar, and the teeth were always loosening. Dad's tractor was a 1938 McCormick Deering with a crank. Wow, yeah, that's going back there. We had a McCormick hay baler when I was growing up. My dad had a McCormick square baler, and I'm not making this up either. I had to ride on the back of that baler where all that, that plunger's bam, 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 hitting that hay, and the hay dust is flying up, and I'm sitting right next to that, sitting on and it had two, I don't know, I call them cans or something, where the string was in. It had two, one on each side, and I was sitting on one of those big cans and having to retie the knots whenever the baler would miss a knot. I would have to retie it as the bale was going through, breathing all that, and we never wore a mask or nothing. Probably why my lungs are like they are today. But anyway, you're talking about dangerous on top of it, and I was doing that from a very young age. Yeah, I've always worked. That's what my wife says. She said, you never were a kid. And she's 100% right. I never was a kid. Whenever I could sneak away to go fishing, or whenever I could sneak away to build my 3-story tree house. That was the only time I was a kid. And if I snuck away for more than an hour or two, my dad was coming looking for me. And that's just the truth of it. Bob L. Says, freezing in London, England. Bill Webb says, -6, sorry. -6. Wow. -6 down in Texas? That's cold. I mean, it's -2 here, and it's pretty dang cold here if you ask me. Gary Hayden got in late, woke up to a -12, 6 inches of snow, East Tennessee. What about Missouri? Yeah, well, we're not quite that cold, but it's very cold. Oh, he said not -12, actually 12. Okay. Well, I was going to say, -12 seems awful cold. Paul Lanier. Hi, after all. After bluegrass practice last night, my truck door wouldn't open. The rain had frozen them closed. Not normal for Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy out there. The weather is just nuts. Spoken Song says, press the like button, and I second that. Thank you very much. Chris Sutton. Jerry, it's so cold here I had to open the fridge to heat the house. I wouldn't doubt that. I'll tell you another story. Now, that's a true story, too. When I was, just after I got married when I was 21, and my wife's parents, my mother-in-law mainly, owned what we called the Rolfing place. It was about 180 acres or something like that. It was near Stony Hill, Missouri. And it was just an old, dilapidated farm. Nobody ever went out there, hadn't gone out there for 20 or 30 years, and the old farmhouse had been vandalized and broken down and busted up, and You could literally, and I mean literally, throw a dog through the walls. I mean, it was holes that big in the walls. Well, I, kind of boarded up some of the holes and stuff, and I was going out there deer hunting on weekends, pretty much every weekend, and, closed off the holes the best I could. I made myself a barrel wood stove just out of a 55-gallon drum. Actually, at that time, it was just one of those little narrow, it was just one of those little narrow cast iron wood stoves. You've seen them. They're just little narrow, kind of rectangular, long, and you open up the front door and slide wood in. You can only get 3 or 4 pieces in them. They weren't very big. That's the only wood stove I had, and so it didn't keep fire very long. Well, that night, and I kid you not, it got down to 15 below actual temperature in that house. It was so cold, and I had insulated coveralls. I was sleeping in those inside of a pretty good sleeping bag, right next to the wood stove, as close as I could get my cot next to the wood stove, freezing my tail off, literally freezing my tail off, with everything pulled up over my head. And the next morning, I had one of those giant Coleman coolers. You remember those old metal heavy-duty coolers, great big ones, with the big lid. And they were metal with plastic lining on the inside, styrofoam and all that. Well, anyway, everything inside the cooler froze solid. I couldn't get anything out of the cooler. I'll tell you how cold it was. And there was a heat stove in that room. Oh my gosh. This is the coldest time I ever spent outside, I can tell you that. It was cold, man. I had thoughts that night that they were going to find me dead, frozen in my sleeping bag. Oh my gosh. Bill Mumbles, I see. I think I must have missed this one, or maybe it's scrolled up. I can't tell where I'm at, to be honest with you. I see Bill Mumbles' comment says, "Don't scratch your head; you may get splinters." Thanks, Bill. I don't know where I'm at. I really have. It moved a long way on me, and I got to figure out where I'm at. I see Mark Nasdem there. Good to see you, Mark. Chuck Hybrider from St. James. Punk Ridge, always trying to fix things that don't need fixing. If it ain't fixed, leave it alone. Okay. Ain't broken. Yeah, that's what he meant to say. Yeah, I say that a lot. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm at, guys. Sorry. Okay, all right. I think I'm back down to where I should be. Well, I thought I was. Chris Sutton. Oh, no, that one I read already. All right, here we are. C. Wilscheck. Good morning, Jerry. Can you explain why a wooden acoustic instrument sounds better with time? Do you need to play it in order for it to sound better? Yeah, it's pretty common that if an acoustic instrument sits unplayed, that it takes a while for them to wake back up. It's pretty common. My theory is, and the reason they sound better over time, just like the Stradivari violins, the reason they sound better over time is that over time and over the amount of playing, the wood vibrates so much that the little tiny pores open up, and the dried sap, for lack of a better word, powderizes. It crunches up, and it works its way out of the pores, and it becomes more and more open over time. And it gets lighter and lighter over time, and it vibrates better over time. So those are my theories on it, and everybody that you talk to probably have a little bit different theory, but that's kind of my idea. And honestly, any instrument that sits unplayed, it takes it a while to wake back up. Like this one hasn't been played. It's going to get better and better over the next, over time as people play it again. But it sounds pretty good as it is, but it'll sound better as it gets played more. Simon Jardine, my latest guitar has come with flat 2.8 millimeter wide frets. I don't fancy trying to crown them and think it needs refret. Your opinion? Welcome. From Frosty Scotland. Well, if they're really wide frets, first of all, I'm not a big fan of big frets, period. I just don't like them. I especially don't like the really tall ones. To me, they're just, I know a lot of the really good players just swear by the big tall frets because they have a light touch and they just can, make the notes and things with a light touch. That's not how I play. And whenever you have taller frets, well, guess what? Your strings are higher off your fretboard. And I'm not a fan of that. So that's the first thing. I prefer like just medium frets on the guitars, just standard medium frets. And I don't really like the extra wide ones either because as you do fret jobs on them, they keep widening out and get lower. Now, I like the lower part, but I don't like the widening out part like you're talking about. So if I was in that situation and they were really low and really wide, I probably would put new frets in it. But if it were for my nickel, I'd be putting in just standard medium guitar frets and not the big wide ones. So that's my 10 cents on it. And of course, that's my personal preference, so you have to weigh that. Wow. Carolyn says the record cold for East Tennessee was in the 1980s, minus 23. Whew. Yeah, well, that global warming's causing that. I'm just joking, guys. You don't have to get on me. I know about global warming, but it is kind of odd that it's pretty dadgum cold around here. Dane Dawson, hello from Montana. Minus 30 the last 3 mornings, but it finally up to 3 degrees this morning. Well, good, because generally the weather's coming from your direction, so I'm hoping it warms up here too, because we don't need these temperatures that we have, I can tell you. Bill Webb says, can I use a violin sound post position tool to position the sound post on a stand-up bass? Well, yeah, you can, sort of, kind of, but they're usually not long enough to do that. That's my tool right there. You can see the hook there. That hook is on purpose. And then this end here has a point. And if you look at the point real close, you can see a tiny little hook that I bent into it. And I'm trying to turn it where you can see it better. There you can see it a little bit. So what I do is looking for something I can use as an example here. I don't have a real good example handy, so I'll just use a pen. If this is the sound post, and the sound post is going to be longer than this, and it's going to be bigger around in an upright bass. But if this, on a proportion basis, just try to consider that. If this was the length of the big bass sound post, then proportionately, I'd screw this in about right here. You leave about 2/3 hanging down and about 1/3 above it, or even a little less than 1/3, but about 1/3. And you would screw it in about right there. And and the other thing about it, and this is getting really picky, but you should do this if you're going to, be setting up instruments, is that you want to screw this in. You look at the end of this post, and you got lines going through your post, growth rings, and you want to screw this in the same orientation that the rings are growing through, so that when you put this through the sound hole and you're pulling this tight, now the rings are perpendicular to the top. So the top rings are going this way, and these rings are going this way. So you want them to cross. You don't want them going the same way. You want them to cross. And then if you're getting real picky, and I am, you also want a slight bevel on the top and a slight bevel on this bottom to match the curvature of the top on the inside and the back. And I'm exaggerating, but there's a curve like this on the bottom or on the back, and then there's a curve like this on the top. So you want a slight curve in this also to fit that as you're pulling it back toward there. You want to fit that sound post on a base, I'm going to say 3/8 of an inch behind the treble foot. So in other words, if you went straight down with the treble foot, then you move back 3/8 of an inch, you would be at the edge of the sound post. About that. That's approximately. Everybody will have a different opinion on that too. But you don't want the sound post directly under the foot of a bridge. And the reason is because it sends a signal straight through to the harsh back. You want it to have just at least a little bit of flex in that top so that it doesn't drive straight through the sound post and sound real harsh. It'll have just enough to soften the sound by putting it slightly behind, yet it still supports it strong enough to support it. Because that's what the sound post is for, is to keep the top from caving in. But it also helps transfer the sound to the back and out. And people often say that the next question is, well, then why don't you do that in a mandolin, and why don't you do that in a guitar, and all those things to send the sound to the back? Different technology altogether. And the reason is, think about it, the bow is long like that. You're getting a vibration the whole time. That kind of a long vibration. A pick is to pluck. Well, that pluck just goes straight to there. It's just harsh and thin and tinny when you do that with a pick. But with that long vibration, it has time to vibrate the whole thing and send that vibration into the back. It's a completely different technique. So that's why you don't put a sound post in the plucked instruments. Now, have I done that? Yes, I have. When, like a cheap mandolin that's falling apart, and you just want to find an easy way to fix it so somebody can learn how to play mandolin. Yeah, I'll put a sound post in them. I tell them that it's not going to make it sound good, but it'll at least let you play it. Where the top's caving in, that kind of thing. But anyway, that's probably more than everybody wanted to know about sound posts. But just a coat hanger, that's all I do. You could get a little stiffer piece of wire. This coat hanger, I'll be honest, is right on the edge of being stiff enough. It's stiff enough for me, I can do it. But if it was just a hair stiffer, and I wouldn't say twice as big, just a little bit bigger than this, or if you can find a little bit sturdier coat hanger, that would be perfect. But this is stiff enough. And the hook then, and if you want to know why the hook is on there, is then after you get it standing up, then you look through there and you try to make sure, is it perpendicular? Because you want it perpendicular from the top to the back. And, in other words, you don't want it leaning one way or the other, so the hook is there to help adjust it. And you might have to pull the foot in, and you also want it perpendicular, like if the length of the bass is going this way, you also want it perpendicular this way too. So you don't want it leaning this way or that way, and you don't want it leaning this way or this way. Either way, you want the thing perpendicular. So that's what the hook's for, is to help straighten it up once you get it set in there. And when you're this hook, this little tiny hook on the end, that allows you to screw it in as you're pushing it in, and then you can also unscrew it a little bit as you're taking it out, and then, because a lot of times it's just barely set in there. And so I'll give you my standard line. Whenever you're setting up a violin or a bass or any other bowed instrument like a cello or a viola or whatever, any of those instruments, when they're set up perfectly, when they're absolutely perfect, then they're absolutely ready to fall apart. And I mean, that's the truth. I say it to be a little bit silly in one way, but it's also very truthful. Every single item on a bowed instrument, every item is friction. The sound post is friction, the bridge is friction, the tailpiece is friction, the tuning keys are friction. If the friction fails, it's ready to fall apart. But everything should be set under friction. And the sound post, by the way, and the other reason I say it's ready to fall apart is because you don't jam the sound post in there. You don't want it jammed in there tight. It's just tight enough to just barely stay there. Like, and if you take all the string tension off, then the sound post really should fall out. So in other words, when you set the sound post on a bass or a violin, you should have your strings on it, but have almost no tension on them. Just a tiny, tiny bit of tension on the strings. On your bridge, you set your sound post, then you go ahead and do all your tensioning, and now there's tension on your sound post, and it won't fall out. But if you take all your strings off, it's ready to fall apart. I mean, everything falls apart. So that's what I mean when I say that. If it's set up perfectly, it's ready to fall apart. Okay, you guys will wake back up now. Snort. Bored you to death on that one. But that's the truth. That's the way you do it. I'm looking for where we're at here again. Okay, Mark Nasdam, have you ever saw those used motor oil systems? They convert wood stoves for heat. Used oil would be easier than cutting wood. Yeah, but the problem is you got to get enough used oil. And it's kind of hard to come by that much used oil, and especially for that house, yeah, it would be impossible. You couldn't get enough used oil. But yeah, I actually did make a used oil furnace for my metal shop. In fact, I had it for several years, but it was more trouble than it was worth, to be honest. It was a homemade one, and it burned and it heated pretty good, but it took a long time to get hot, and it was finicky. It could go out easy. Of course, it was homemade, I mean, if you bought one of the store-bought ones, yeah, it'd probably be fine. But anyway, I did have one. I am familiar with them, and they do work pretty well. They do heat up pretty good. But getting enough used oil, I mean, I was using quite a bit of oil just heating that metal shop there. I can't even imagine how much oil you'd go through to heat that house. It'd be impossible to explain. Paul Lanier, 45 minutes of play each day for about 15 months will change tone for the better. Happened that way for my Martin D-28. Yeah, and I don't even know that you'd have to do 45 minutes every day, but often is what I would say. You just need to play them frequently and keep them in playing condition. And you can actually hear the change sometimes very quickly. Like I notice it on my mandolins. Like if I haven't played one for a couple of months or whatever, I'll pick it up and it'll sound a little bit dead. But just in a little while, they start to sound better. Yeah, Mark says, I'm sure I could build one. Well, like I said, I already did. But I took it out. I got rid of it. I just got tired of dealing with it. I mean, it worked pretty good, actually. But there's more to it than you think, by the way, on those oil furnaces. They get heavy creosote built up on the inside of them. They really do build up a heavy, almost like a glass. It's almost like obsidian. It's hard to get off. There's a lot more to them than you think. It's not as good as it sounds. I really thought it was going to be my answer because I have enough used oil, I thought, to heat my shop. It wouldn't be near enough to heat the house, but yeah, anyway, it just didn't work out the way I thought it would work out. Bill Webb says, thank you, very valuable information. Yeah, the sound post thing is really a lot to it. A lot more to it than your average person would think. And lots of people try to set them in lots of different ways. And I know of, I guess, at least 3 main methods. And there's more, but there's 3 main methods. One of them is using a coat hanger with a hook on it like this. And even for a violin, I just have a smaller one of these for a violin. This is for a bass, but I have one exactly like this, just a lot smaller for a violin. There's this is the other tool, and I do use this sometimes. Occasionally, sometimes something's just not working, and I'll go to this. And you can reach in on the inside of the violin through the F hole, and you can grab the sound post. See how it's got the little round deal there to grab the sound post. And you can adjust your sound post with this. And then it's got the little hooks on the backside where you can reach in and move the sound post a little bit. Or you can just, I don't even bother with these. I just use this and just move the sound post with this if I need to. So these are the two main methods, and then the third method that I can think of off the top of my head is using a piece of string, and people will tie a piece of string right about a third of the way up, so that the heavy hangs down, and this will be the top of the sound post then, of course. And you tie a piece of string that goes out this F hole, and this string goes out that F hole, and then you can maneuver it with the string and get it in the right place and set it. The string thing is probably one of the best ways for an amateur, but once I learned to do it with these, I got rid of the string idea. I never use the string anymore after I learned how to do it this way. Now, you'll still get lots of violins coming in the shop, or I used to, with string in there tied to their sound post. And then you just leave the string inside the violin. Which is another reason I didn't like it, because it's kind of messy. If you're a professional, I don't like the look of that string hanging inside the violin. So these are your two primary methods, but the string is a third method. Moving on down, let's see. Bill Carter, good morning from cold Hot Springs, Arkansas. I got in late. Can you tell again about the D-18? All right, I'll tell you a little more about that as we close out here. Christia Thomason, the instrument wisdom is never boring. Thanks for sharing the knowledge. Good, thank you. Salamander Jerry, would you ever consider making a custom snare drum? I had thought about it. I kind of know how to do that, by the way, because of working on so many of these, I'm calling them novelty banjos, the smaller banjos and different things that basically have a drum head, and then you have to make your own hide head for them and stretch the hide and all that. And I've done that a number of times, and so I know how to do that. And so from that I could build a drum without too much trouble. But quite honestly, I got more to do than I can shake a stick at as it is, and I'm really not all that interested in it, so probably not. But I could do it if I had to. Thomas Armstrong, will a bridge doctor change the sound of an acoustic guitar? Well, Thomas, this is the big debate again. I can only tell you this and just give you my caveats. These are my opinions about the bridge doctor. The bridge doctor absolutely does fix the bow in the top. Like if the bridge is pulling up or whatever like this, it will set it back down. The bridge doctor does do what it says it does. But in my opinion, it's at the cost of the tone of your guitar. I do not like what it does to the tone. So that's my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it. And I know I've really made some people mad over that. Some big names in the industry are mad about that because of what I say, but I ain't going to change what I say just because they're mad. They just need to get over it, because it's the black and white truth as I see it, and I ain't going to lie to you about it. There's one company, and I can't even remember their name now, but they're a big name company, and they're I think the guys down at the acoustic shop call them, what do they call those? Starts with a B. I want to say boudoir guitars. That's not what I mean. one-off type, that custom type guitars. I don't know what the name was. They used it down there in the acoustic shop all the time down there in Springfield. But anyway, they've got videos out where they name these guitars that. But anyway, the high-end kind of select guitars. One of those companies, their guitars come out with a bridge doctor already in them. And I, more or less reviewed one of those guitars on the channel, and I said, I don't like it at all. And I could tell that it was affecting the tone of the guitar. I mean, it was real obvious to me. And if you've heard as many guitars as I've heard, it don't take long to notice the difference between good and bad. And I didn't like it. And boy, they got mad. I mean, they didn't like me at all. Because their guitars came out with those already put in it. But I don't care. I don't like them. And I don't think they sound good. And their guitars would sound a lot better if they didn't put them in there. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And come heck or high water, I'm sticking to it. Let's see. Moving on down. Well, Breedlove is the name of one of those high-end guitars, but I'm talking about they used a generic term for all of those kinds of guitars, and it started with a B, I'm pretty sure, but I can't think of that generic term. It's not a brand of guitar. I can't think of what they called it now. I don't know. It'd be similar to custom is the word, but it's not. That's not the word they used. You know me in words. Bill Carter, I have two 1993 Gibson gospel guitars. One has a bridge doctor and the other does not. The bridge doctor dampens the sustain and projection substantially. Well, I totally agree. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I've heard several guitars with bridge doctors. I don't like them at all. I fix the problem and get rid of the bridge doctors, what I do. When they come in with bridge doctors in them, I get rid of the bridge doctor, and the people are, they thank me, they bless me. Because, yeah. Oh, Breedlove has the system from the start. Yeah, well, that may be true. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, and they don't like me. I can tell you right now, they don't like me. They told me they didn't like me. But too bad, so sad. I ain't changing my story for nobody. So Canadian J.P. Cormier is a fan of them. Well, he may be. Boutique. Yep, that's the word. Thanks, Bo. Yeah, that's what they were calling them, boutique guitars. In other words, kind of the unique, custom, fancy, one-off type guitars, boutique guitars. Yep, that's the word, guys. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, the Breedlove, I guess, is the one that comes out with it already in there, and those people don't care for me. Too bad, so sad. Yes, this is a 1947 D-18 Martin guitar. Serial number, okay, it says D-18 on the neck block there, and the serial number is, you ready to write it down? 102114. 102114. And I looked it up, and Bill already told me it was a 47, and based on what I can tell, I would say it's a 47 also. It's a outside possibility. It was built at the very end of 46, but I would say it's a 47 for sure, just based on the number. But anyway, it's up in really good shape. You can see the tuning keys there. Let me look at that and see if that looks like that's ever been messed with. As far as I can tell, that hasn't been messed with. That looks original. Everything looks good. It's got a strap button here. Strap button here. You can see everything looks tight. The little seam right down the middle is, you can see that's, you can tell it's kind of weather type, open type thing. You know, it's not like it's broke or anything. That's just kind of normal for anything that's got a seam in it for that kind of age. I haven't looked inside it. Let's look inside it real quick. Okay, got my mirror. I'm gonna look. You'll just have to take my word for it. I'm looking inside it. It's got nice, I would call them, nice dainty type bracing in there. It's not the overdone bracing. It's not scalloped, but it's not overdone either. It's nice. It's just right, I would say. The bridge pad looks fine. It's a small bridge pad. It is I'm going to say maple bridge pad as far as I can tell. I don't see anything loose. As far as I can tell, it all looks good. I'm going to look up at the front here and see if I see anything loose there. As far as I can tell, that all looks solid. I don't see anything wrong. Let's just do the tap test. Now, if you ever do this, make sure you're not doing it with your fingernail. I don't even have fingernails, so... And I also use the bottom fleshy part of my finger. Regardless what it looks like, I'm hitting it with the bottom fleshy part. Sounds very solid, very solid. Very solid. It's a good guitar, I think. I think whoever gets it's going to be pretty happy. Somebody says it sounds like I'm in a can. Is that because I was away from the mic? I don't know. I worked on an Ibanez guitar that had a structure inside the guitar that went from just in front of the bridge plate to the tail post. It was more substantial than a bridge doctor. Zappa says y'all have to remember that guitar was put together with hide glue. You know, I'm not so sure about that. That's kind of the myth on a lot of that stuff, but I don't think they were using hide glues in the factories all that much. I mean, some of the cheaper factories were, for sure. I don't know that Martin was. I'm talking the Silvertones and the Harmonies and all those. Yeah, those were hide glue. I'm not so sure that that's true with the Martin. I know even today you can still get Martin to use hide glue if you request it, but they don't typically use hide glue. I'm looking in here and, there's no glue trace left that I could tell you for sure. It probably is hide glue. I'm not saying it isn't. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me if it isn't hide glue either. Jim says, what's the temp out there? It's -3 today. I'm just using a Tortex 114 millimeter pick. This one has a hole in it. I don't normally use the ones with the holes in them. This was just what was laying here. My friends call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. My friends call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. I got one in my boot tops and one in my overalls. Give me water when I'm thirsty, or a bottle when I'm dry. Water when I'm thirsty, or a bottle when I'm dry. Play me sad music when I want to cry. That's a nice guitar. Really is a nice guitar. For a 1947, you'd have to look pretty hard to find one that I would say was any better. I'm sure they're out there that are better, but they're pretty good. The worst wear that it's got on it, I'll show you up close, is right here. Yeah, you can see it there. It's pretty worn there. It's pretty worn up here too, where somebody, you know, I call it the flutter pickers. They have to get out there and do this, you know. Lighten up, guys. You don't need to be picking out like this, you know, when you're picking. Anyway, it just, guitars get that, and this definitely has plenty of that. But it's not as bad as I've seen on some. I mean, it's definitely, this could become a Willie Nelson here if the wrong person was playing it. But right now, I'd say, I don't know, half a millimeter wore out right there. You know, just half a millimeter. So that's not too bad. So about 20 thousandths down, something like that. It's not too bad, considering it's about 100 thousandths thick, approximately. So 20% worn, about 80% still there. Gotta turn my light off. And I dropped my pick. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in and supporting me. I appreciate it. 191 viewers. Let's see. Thomas Armstrong says, daughter wants us to retire to Missouri from New Hampshire. Think that it's too cold there. Well, it's only this cold once in a while. It doesn't, usually these kinds of temperatures don't last very long. Last year, I mean, every year we'll have a few really cold temperatures, a few really cold days. But generally speaking, the temperatures here during the winter are, I don't know, I'm going to average them just around 30, 32 degrees is probably the average cold days, and then we get lots of days in the 40s, 50s, you know, and stuff like that. But right now it's not. It's really cold right now, and it's not even, I mean, it's getting up to maybe 10 or 12 degrees during the day, so it's not too nice right now. Tony Landis, watching while driving up 87 in New York. It looks like it's got that goofy little symbol there right over the last word. I can't tell if it's New York or New Hampshire or New. I can see an N. That's all I can see. It just scrolled up. New York. Okay. Martin tops 120 inch thick. Yeah, some maybe. I don't think all of them are that thick. They're not usually 120 inches thick, 120 thousandths thick. I mean, I'm saying that. Let's just test it. I don't think they're generally that thick. Not the ones I've measured in the past. We can measure it right here, right now, and we can know. Well, except that I have it on fractions. Wouldn't you know? Just never fails. I thought it was on... There it is, thousandths, and it's zeroed out, so let's check it again. Uh-oh. There's a brace right there. Doggone it, I didn't think there was a brace there. Let's see if I can get it. Well, you're right. It looks like it is about 120 in this one. No, it isn't either. It's almost exactly 100. Almost exactly 100. It's 1.065. So it's 100 thousandths and just a little bit over that, but not bad. So anyway. Yeah, I don't see them 1/8 inch thick. I typically do not see them that thick. I know that's kind of the internet wisdom, but that's not the truth, I don't think. Let's see. Where do I find the plastic for my router and jigs and things? The plastic, I bought it at an auction. It was a one-off deal. There was a machinist that was selling everything, and he had a whole bunch of plastic stock. So that's where I got it. And it's the Delrin type plastic. That's kind of what you typically want. Delrin, and I don't know if there's a name for that, like cutting board plastic, but if that's Delrin or not, I don't think that is. But that cutting board plastic's really good stuff, and the Delrin plastic is really good stuff. Oh, okay. I guess that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been on here for an hour and 11 minutes, so I guess that's long enough. We will see you tomorrow with something. We're going to be at Dickey's Barbecue Pit tonight, so come join us if you can. We will see you there, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.